Myoho Renge Kyo. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Good morning, good day, good existence, time. How are you this morning? I keep saying morning. It's morning for me. Whatever time it is for you, let it be morning. we're getting started. All right. A quick note. And first of all, thank you for being here. Thank you for your practice. I've updated the Gangyo liturgy. Make sure we're focused here. What I've done is I've added a Gosho, which hopefully will answer many questions I've had posed to me about Gangyo. I have, I don't know if you can see that. It might be too bright. There we go. The Daimoku of the Lotus Sutra. Nichiren writes a pretty comprehensive Gosho here. It talks about the meaning of Myo and some other things. There's quite a lot of information in this Gosho, which is why I wanted to put it in the liturgy book. But very near the start, he discusses this question that I've gotten many times of, what if my life right now is just so filled with, I'm being pulled this way and that, and, who hasn't experienced that in this latter age? I mean, we're not only on 24/7, 365 distraction mode, but even when we get time to ourselves, our mind is going in 50,000 directions because of just samsara, and this Saha world in this time. We have the capacity to handle this, though, and it's people will dismiss it as a time management problem, but our practice actually gets a hold of this without actually spending a lot of cerebration over it. Cerebration. And that is, I just don't have time in the morning. Or I get home at night and there's no way I'm going to sit down and do a full Gangyo. I can't do it. Or my hours are this and that. Or insert your particular issue here. So Nichiren addresses this with, of all people, an older woman whose life has been being a woman in the medieval times, right? In a samurai shogunate society. It's not like she's out there opening a flower shop or anything. She's a samurai's wife, first of all. And secondly, she's a homemaker. That's what the women do, right? All of that is to say that in her duties, she has time to sit down and read entire sutras and recite them out loud, sing them, yes? This is part of her function as a wife, a good wife, and a good Buddhist woman. When she reads the Lotus Sutra, she says to Nichiren, sometimes I have many duties and I gravitate toward a certain chapter that really seems to connect with me and whatever I'm going through at the time. And I will recite that one over and over, And so she asked Nichiren, am I doing this wrong? Should I be just going straight through the book, doing my Shodai Daimoku? Before, after, how much? Right? Have you not asked this question before? If I don't do a full Gangyo in the morning because my day is just inundated with things I have to do, am I a bad Buddhist? Have I screwed up? Am I damaging my karma? And Nichiren, in this Gosho, very neatly in a paragraph, explains what the three types of practice are and their relative importance. And of course, the more you can do, the better, but the absolute essential is the daimoku. That's not to say that that's all you should do. You should do whatever time allows you to do. And the more you do, the more you practice, the more your life will shift to give you the time you need to really awaken your Buddha mind, yeah? So it's a very compassionate and information-packed Gosho, and I thought, where better to put it than in the liturgy itself? There have been many times when I've felt I had to grab my butt and force it in front of the Butsudan. Your mind just messes with you sometimes, yeah? And I can say I'm going to say almost every time, because sometimes, I've been in the past in such bad shape. No, I'm so convinced now of my practice that this doesn't happen anymore. But I can remember being so, I don't know what, just stunned in life that even opening a Gosho was like asking too much of me. How pathetic, yeah? But it happens. We're human beings, and samsara is powerful. But to put the Gosho in the Gangyo book, I think, makes it just a little bit more cohesive, attitude-wise, that even if you don't feel like doing Gangyo, but you find yourself with the time, isn't that a conundrum? Just read a couple of sentences, or maybe just a sentence. Just wherever you end up in the Gosho, read that paragraph or whatever. Every time I've done that, it doesn't have to be a specific Gosho, but in this case, most relatable. And things start to fire off in my head. My Gohonson mind gets to work right away. Oh yeah. And then suddenly I have the energy to go, well, I guess I'll chant for 30 minutes, and then it doesn't take much chanting to suddenly, well, after I'm done, I'll do Gangyo. Maybe I'll just do a brief Gangyo. I'll just do a once through, right? And if time is permitting, I'll kick myself in the butt. My Buddha mind will kick me in the butt and go, hey, let's go for it, right? I'm not saying that happens every time, but the Gosho is a true source of kickstarting that aspiration for Buddhahood. So anyway, it's in there, blah, blah, blah. What I think I may do for those of you who are members on Patreon, and those of you who are donating straight to PayPal, I have a mailing list that I try to keep up to date. I will send you the updated PDF, so don't worry about having to download that again. But I don't know, if you're like me, electronic, it's nice to have, and if you can afford the paper, you can print it out for yourself, but I like a solid book. So yeah, you'll have to get a new. They're not very expensive. They're pretty inexpensive. But anyway, that's the change. So maybe you already have one of my 6 books on Nichiren's Gosho, and you have a copy of this Gosho, so great. If you want it integrated into the Gangyo liturgy, you just have to purchase a new book. For those of you, again, who are members, or you've joined. I think only one of you has joined on Facebook. I don't know how much longer I'll keep that up. It doesn't seem to be a popular thing to do. So, and that's okay. But yes, on Patreon or PayPal, I will email you an updated PDF, and hopefully you can use that, and that's great. If not, as I said, buy a book. All right. Here we go. I think we'll finish the Tien-Tai entry in the Buddhism Reference today. We're going to start with the fourfold method. 1. Gradual teaching. A method for those with medium or inferior abilities that advances towards Buddhahood step by step. Ouch. But that's okay. I mean, we all know people, and maybe we are. At some times, we've all been that person who just was more ignorant about a certain subject than others. It's, of course, yeah. There's just too much to know in the world today. Everybody has to become an expert. But if you're an expert at one thing or two things or 10 things, there are plenty of things to which you have simply not spent the time. Yeah? So Buddhism is that way as well. And so we teach differently. This is shoju, right? Different types of shoju, you might say. 2, sudden teaching. The distinctive teachings and the complete teaching for those with superior abilities, those who grasp these concepts very quickly. And it's always, you may be one of those folks. You may know somebody like that. The minute you start talking about something, they go, oh, I get it. It's like this, and they rattle it back to you like you didn't understand it, right? That's exciting and sometimes a little off-putting. But 3rd, there's the secret teaching. Teachings which are transmitted without the recipient being aware of it. In other words, you use your Buddhist training, your Buddha mind, and here we're talking about skillful means, right? Expedient devices or certain types of skillful means, where we're injecting the wisdom of Buddhahood without the rhetoric of, or maybe it's some rhetoric, but not so specific that the collocutor or recipient of our words is made aware that you're teaching them Buddhism. You're just approaching a certain thing that they're experiencing or that you're experiencing with everyday terminology, but from a Buddhist perspective. And that this attracts people to, man, you've always got good answers for things, right? It doesn't have to be Buddhism. But this is how we forge relationships toward enabling others to start on the path. And 4th, variable teaching. A method with no fixed teaching, but various teachings for various persons and circumstances. Again, this is all shoju, isn't it? And this is Tien-Tai, or Zhiyi, at his time. In the Tzu Chiao Yi, Zhiyi states that 4 teachings are based on the 3 truths and the 3 contemplations. The 4 teachings explained here arise from the threefold contemplations which were discussed above. They, i.e. the 4 teachings, in turn, actualize the threefold contemplations. First, the contemplation for entering emptiness from provisional existence includes 2 different methods of entering emptiness, analytical and experiential, which are clumsy and skillful methods of entering emptiness, respectively. Because one can enter emptiness through the analysis of provisional existence, there arises the Tripitaka teaching. Because one can enter emptiness through experiencing provisional existence as empty, there arises the shared teaching. And from within the second contemplation for entering provisional existence from emptiness, there arises the distinct teaching. And from the third correct contemplation of the middle way in one mind, there arises the complete teaching. which would be the Lotus Sutra, right? All right, the four Siddhantas. Again, this is not an exhaustive analysis, but this is a selection of items from Tien-Tai, Zhiyi, that we can see reformed and evolved by the time Tien-Tai turns into Tendai in Japan, right? Through the scholarship of successive scholars, monks, until Bodhisattva Nichiren. The four Siddhanta, another way that Tendai thinkers like Zhiyi classify the Buddhist teachings, is through the four Siddhantas, which are the four principles that the Buddha used to teach the Dharma derived from the Datsui Lun. According to David W. Chappell, the four Siddhantas are: 1. First of all, the Buddha used ordinary or mundane modes of expression. He spoke in Prakrit, not Pali, as some of you may have been told, not Sanskrit. He used Prakrit, which is a voluminous set of dialogues, because India is a huge country with many languages. And Prakrit kind of, at that time anyway, crossed many socioeconomic lines, and it was one that was fairly universal, although customized for different regions, India. And he used, in other words, the language of the people in order to explain Buddhism. This is why sometimes as we read these old translations and transcriptions and in different cultures and languages, some of these teachings may seem a little either pedantic or when will you get to the point and this kind of thing. It's because of the audience that he was teaching. People who were extremely ignorant about all things. It was an agrarian society. They didn't have, it's not like they had malls to go to. Schooling wasn't universal. 3,000 years ago. Okay. Second, then he individualized his teaching and adapted it to the capacities of his listeners. So he had a general accepted knowledge base, languages, and he told stories to explain the idea of the mind, first of all, how it works in our lives and runs our bodies and vice versa. How to have a healthy mind, how to think correctly and observe our thinking process. Wow, these were all revolutionary things, certainly in the Buddhist context, right? Actually took words that were culturally thousands of years old and changed their meanings. There was a lot going on, right? And when he spoke to individuals, he knew their specific capacity, their exposure in life to whatever, and he would customize those same stories and teachings to that one person's experience so that that person could internalize and own the teaching for themselves. This is very skillful, yes? He further altered it in order to respond to and diagnose the spiritual defects of his hearers. And fourth, finally, all his teaching was based on the perfect and highest wisdom. The first three are conditioned and finite, whereas the last is inconceivable and ineffable. According to Chappell, the main idea of the Tien-Tai understanding of the Buddha's method of teaching is the receptivity and response appropriate to a person's capacities, or communication based on receptivity and response. According to Chappell, this means that not only the form of the teaching, but also the quest for enlightenment, bodhicitta, arises during an interaction involving a response to the capacities and needs of a person. Yeah? You ever talk to somebody who is going through a real rough time, rough patch, whatever you want to call it, and you just get really down to earth with them, you want to quell their fears, you can see them light up. Even if they're super bummed out, depressed, you'll see them, you'll see little flickers of hope. Right? Practice. According to Charles Luke, in China, it has been traditionally held that the meditation methods of the Tien-Tai are the most systematic and comprehensive of all. Tien-Tai emphasizes meditation as the union of samatha, calming, and vipassana, or clear seeing or insight. Regarding the functions of samatha and vipassana in meditation, Zhiyi writes in his work Concise Samatha Vipassana, quote, "The attainment of nirvana is realizable by many methods whose essentials do not go beyond the practice of samatha and vipassana. Samatha is the first step to untie all bonds, and vipassana is essential to root out delusion. Samatha provides nourishment for the preservation of the knowing mind, and vipassana is the skillful art of promoting spiritual understanding. Samatha is the unsurpassed cause of samadhi, while vipassana begets wisdom." William R. Lafleur summarizes Zhiyi's understanding of Shikan, or Japanese Shikan, as follows. "These are recognized as two distinct phases or modes that are also united into one process. Samatha, the first aspect of Shikan, could be rendered as stand still. The philosophical meditational act, through which the random and confused perceptions and cognitions of ordinary experience are brought to a stop and remain in a tranquil state." Thank you, Nichiren, for providing us a mandala to help induce that state. Yes? This stoppage makes possible, and is also made possible by, the second aspect of Shikan. This is vipassana, which could be rendered as contemplation. This contemplation is directed toward objects of ordinary perception. It does not attempt to locate the essences of phenomena. The contemplator, in accord with the fundamental impermanence of all things, himself included, regards them without obstruction, that is, without the sort of discriminating mind, distractions, that would seek to arrange phenomena into hierarchies of relative importance and select out some primarily himself or some part of himself as deserving of exemption from the rule of impartial impermanence. That's that monkey mind dancing around in there. And that's why I've put so many tools, little PowerPoints and documents on the... in fact, I was going to mention on threefoldlotus.com, on the study page, I've reorganized it a little bit, where there's a header that says all about Gongyo, and all of those buttons lead to either presentations like PowerPoints or documents explaining the aspects of Gongyo, like what is Myoho Renge-kyo, what is Daimoku, what's the order of Gongyo for morning and evening. There's a chart I've posted on there. These kinds of things, just to help you understand how to perform this. What's the title of Zhiyi's document? It's something in concentration and it's not coming to me. Anyway, that's what we're talking about, right? Insights from concentration, from stilling the samsaric mind while we open our Buddha mind, our Gohonzon mind, yes? The contemplator, in accord with the fundamental impermanence of all things, himself included, regards them without obstruction. Okay, Zhiyi's magnum opus, the great Samatha Vipassana, Moheshikwan, outlines his meditation system as consisting of 25 preparatory practices. Nichiren whittled that down, made it much more quick and realizable for us, right? I mean, our Nichiren doctrine and tools for practice have made it so insanely and simple for us to awaken our Buddha, open our Buddha eye, yes? It's just, it's downright silly for somebody to not practice with everything there is to gain from it, right? Anyway, so in his day, there were 25 preparatory practices. And remember, he was really talking to people who were either explicitly monks or who had provisioned time in the day for this kind of ritual activity. Right? This is 3,000, this was in 6th century China, so quite some time ago. 24 preparatory practices, 4 kinds of samadhi, and 10 modes of contemplation. Zhiyi saw the 4 samadhis as the main pillar of Tien-Tai meditation practice. Zhiyi writes the following: "Now, if you wish to ascend to the stage of wondrous realization, you will not be able to reach it unless you practice." Sounds like Nichiren, doesn't it? But if you, and like anything in life, please. But if you become skilled at stirring and agitating, then the essence of ghee may be obtained. The Lotus Sutra says, quote, "I also see the sons of Buddha cultivating all manner of practices in order to seek the path to Buddhahood," end quote. There are many methods of practice, but we may summarize them under 4 sorts. 1, constantly sitting. In other words, the act of presenting oneself to Buddha nature. This is, thank you, Nichiren. He's given us a Buddhadan and a mandala straight out of the Lotus Sutra, right? With which to present ourselves. 2, constantly walking. Remember walking meditation? So any behavior which is repetitive, which is what chanting is. It's a form of walking. For the mind, doesn't know any different. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, each is a step toward awakening the mind, yeah? 3, part walking and part sitting. All right, we're chanting. And 4, neither walking nor sitting. By referring to them collectively as samadhis, we mean that one thereby attunes, rectifies, and stabilizes the mind. The Tai Chitu Lun, the Great Perfection of Wisdom treatise, says, "Skillfully to fix the mind on one spot and abide there without shifting, that is called samadhi." And what's the spot that we have on the mandala that we talk about? That little candy cane that attaches myo and ho. Myo, the potential; ho, the manifestation. It's the engine of life, right there. And that candy cane shape that connects both of them on the mandala, yeah? That's our spot. We see the entire mandala, but, right? The Dharmadhatu is a single spot, and through true discernment, you can abide there and never stray from it. These 4 types of activity constitute the supporting condition for meditation. By discerning the mind and resorting to the support condition of the 4 activities, one attunes and rectifies the mind. For this reason, we call them samadhis. All right, the Tien-Tai school, we're almost done. The Tien-Tai school also places a great emphasis on mindfulness of breathing and in accordance with the principles of samatha and vipassana. Zhiyi classifies breathing into 4 main categories: panting, unhurried breathing, deep and quiet breathing, and stillness or rest. Remember that when we chant, we do all of that. We have to take a proper breath in order to chant the Daimoku. There's a rhythm to it, so we have the pauses and the in and out, and all of these aspects of breathing occur in our Daimoku. Even learning Gangyo and understanding that those periods we see are the ends of sentences so that we don't randomly run out of breath in the middle of a sentence, that takes some practice to get right, yeah? Control. Authorship of our mind rather than slavishly following it. Zhiyi holds that the first three kinds of breathing are incorrect, while the fourth is correct, and that the breathing should reach stillness and rest. Influence, David Chappell writes, that although the Tien-Tai school has the reputation of being the most comprehensive and diversified school of Chinese Buddhism, it is almost unknown in the West, despite having a religious framework that seems suited to adapt to other cultures to evolve new practices and universalize Buddhism. He attributes this failure of expansion to the school having narrowed its practice to a small number of rituals, and because it has neglected the intellectual breadth and subtlety of its founder. Of course, Nichiren has completely taken advantage of that, right? So you're not missing anything. With Nichiren, we have an evolution and a depth of understanding and cooperation. This is the Lotus Sutra. So again, I will end with thank you, Nichiren. Thank you for your practice, for being here and listening. Thank you immensely for your support, whatever that support, whatever form it takes. You know, the links are in the description. Please use the website. It's there for you. Lots and lots of information and stuff that's nowhere else. Many of you are enjoying the podcast, and that's wonderful. So I keep that going. Everything has a cost. So whatever you can do to help support, you're supporting the entire Sangha so that I can continually refresh and renew and expand this resource of solidity, to secure your practice so you can feel confident, increase your resolve, yeah? All right, with all of that, blah, 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 I'll let you go, and I will see you in the next one. Take care of your health. Keep your practice strong. Bye for now.